Good morning to you all. It is Monday, the 3rd of July, 2023. Time marches on. How you doing? We've got loads of people in the chat already. We've got Dave W in there. We've got Master Templar. I got in there first before I even got to put a message in. We got AB in there. Hi, AB. We got Young Ralph. We got Simon M. We got Vendetta. We got Jack. We got Mellow Maggot. We got Richard Marsden. We got Neil Flood. We got the big Hon. Yes, got the big D. Anyway, so welcome to the show today. I'm going to talk a little bit this morning about Nigel Farage, and you probably don't want me to talk about Nigel Farage. Feel free to make me go off on some mad tangents through the chat. But what I particularly want to talk about is the fact that Nigel Farage has had his bank accounts, his bank account with Coot Bank, Coot, I think it's Colt. Maybe some other word. It begins with C and ends in T. Yes. Anyway, Coutts Bank, which is a bank that you can only have an account with if you have like £1 million in the account or something. I mean, hello. Anyway, so he had his bank account shut down last week, and he got in front of the story. In the same way that I think it was Matt Walsh, was it, who was found during the Brexit campaign to have cheated. He got in front of the story by going on Twitter and announcing to the world that his bank account had been frozen and how unfair all this was. Trump does the same thing. Trump's indictments, we didn't know about them. It wasn't given out by Special Prosecutor Jack Jones, is his name. That wasn't released. That information wasn't released. It was Trump who released it, who said, "I've been indicted." And it wasn't until a week or so afterwards that the actual indictments came down, because he wanted to get ahead of the story. And this is a common technique used by psychopaths, murderers, crazy people everywhere. So this is Farage trying to get ahead of the story. But why would a bank, we're talking about a bank here, not like an arbiter of morality. We're not talking about, I don't know, the NSPCC or the RNLI or David Attenborough here. We're talking about a bank for very, very rich people. Banks for very, very rich people generally don't care where the money comes from. Generally. Unless they really have to. Unless they really, really have to. You know, it wasn't found out till over 60 years. I think 60 years after the Second World War had ended, that banks in Switzerland still had Nazi gold that they had stolen from Jewish people that they had exterminated. Yeah, fun. And that was only found out because a janitor working at night was bored and started looking through the bank records. Yeah, banks aren't great when it comes to morality, or even just, I don't know, abiding by the law, as we saw in 2008 when they caused a credit crunch, which was bailed out by us. Aren't we nice? Bailing out these poor, suffering banks, wretched banks, just coming to us in just rags, really, haven't eaten for weeks. And we, out the benevolence of our hearts, we bail them out like we're going to do to all of the water companies that have been borrowing billions and billions of pounds against the assets that we gave them as the British people to pay out dividends to their shareholders. Yeah, great. So why would a bank freeze Nigel Farage's accounts? Well, there's two reasons. There's only two. Well, there's one, actually, illegality. There's been some illegality gone on in the appropriation of this money. And some people have asked why Farage does things like the birthday greetings things that he does. Well, he does that. I mean, you know, possibly. I don't know. Don't want to say anything libelous here. But you know the car wash in Breaking Bad? I'm just going to wink. That's all I'm going to do. Not saying anything. Okay, you get the meaning. Apologies to anyone who's not watched Breaking Bad, but you could probably surmise what you do with a car wash when you run a criminal empire. You use it to clean things. Yes, a lot more than just cars. Anyway, so it looks like there's either two income streams, or maybe both of them, that may have put Nigel Farage into the firing line when it comes to bank accounts that he's allowed to have. The first one is his links with Trump and with all the indictments that are coming down over Trump, because don't forget, he still hasn't been indicted over the January 6th insurrection. He still hasn't been indicted over the fact that he rang up the governor of Georgia and demanded more votes. Literally said, I need exactly 10,000 whatever more votes so I can beat the other guy, which is cheating. Yeah. The other option, or it might be both, is Russia. Now, Nigel Farage has appeared on Russia Today, the propaganda wing of the Russian government that was broadcast inexplicably in this country for many years until the invasion of Ukraine. And even then, it was a few weeks after the invasion that they actually managed to get rid of it. But he appeared on it more than he appeared on BBC's Question Time. So that's a lot. Yeah, and apparently he was paid up to £500,000, I've heard. Allegedly. I don't know, not saying anything, just saying. That's what I've heard. So he was getting money from the Russian states. Yeah. We still don't know, talking of banks, we still don't know where Aaron Banks, who bankrolled Leave.eu, which Farage was the cover boy of. What a face. What a face for radio Nigel Farage has. His £7 million that he gave to that fund to get people to vote against all common sense and economic, I was going to say sensibleness, but I've already said sense, so I have to use another acumen. It's a good word, isn't it? Economic acumen. It's still quite early for me. And vote to leave the EU. Who does that benefit? Not us, not you, not me. It benefits Russia. Benefits Russia massively. Although, some could argue that it has backfired a little bit since their invasion of Ukraine. But I think the fact that Trump lost the election, which I think Putin knew that Trump was going to lose the election, or figured that he would, but kind of assumed that he would then have to stage a coup and take over the government of America, leaving America in absolute anarchy for the next few years and allowing, and Britain was in anarchy at the time with Boris Johnson as leader, and allowing him to just roll into Ukraine unopposed. Unfortunately for Putin, Trump's insurrection didn't work. And also, Boris Johnson kept on getting into problems over Partygate. So here's something weird that, the butterfly effect and everything. Pippa Carrera's expose of the parties that Boris Johnson had at number 10, which he urgently needed a distraction, and a massive distraction. And so what would happen every time a new revelation about Partygate would come out, Boris Johnson would go to Ukraine and pretend that he's busy mates with Vladimir Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, and offer more arms and more munitions, more tanks, or whatever it was that Ukraine needed. If Partygate hadn't happened, I don't know if our response would have been so robust. I think we might have gone, oh, well, yeah, I suppose Russia's got a historical right to take anywhere that speaks Russian. Like, I don't know, half of Latvia, half of Lithuania, half of Estonia. I suppose we've got a right to take back half of America by the same reckoning. Half of Canada and half of Australia and half of New Zealand. Half of a bunch of other countries around the world that speak English. Well, they speak English. We've got to protect the English speakers against the Nazis. Okay. So you do know there are neo-Nazis living and breathing and going around, stomping around in America, right? Can we go into Charlottesville? Can we go to Charlottesville and say there's Nazis here, we have to take over, the British are back, plant the Union Jack in the ground. It's a Union flag. It's only a jack if it's flown on a boat, on the jack staff. I don't care. Union flag. The British flag. I'm going to call it the British flag. There you go. Stick it. We just turn up and say, sorry, we're here to protect you against the Nazis. Or if Mexico invaded. Imagine if Mexico invaded Texas on the grounds that there are Nazis there. We had to protect our Spanish-speaking citizens. Yeah. So all this comes down to Nigel Farage. Now, he's tried to get ahead of the story. I'll just jump into your comments, actually, because there's loads of good words. Acumen, good word. Thank you. Thank you very much. Great British video gamer. Who's funding GB News? There's some private funders who have put in, literally millions into this ridiculous news outfit. I think it was started with a 60 million slush fund. My favourite anti-Tory by a mile is Donkey Dave 269. Lads, make me laugh every morning. Wakey, wakey. That's from Gnome. I'll have to check that out. Daily Blaze's in the chat. Hi, Darren. How you doing, mate? We've got Audrey in there. Sorry to hear that. DB. So I've got a message here from DB, which I need to try and scroll up to see. Oh my God, there's so many messages. I'm really sorry that I've missed some of your messages. Where's the money from? Russia, Nigel Farage. Either because of his Russian links or because he politically opposes CBDC. I don't know what CBDC means. Yes, me, Freckle Puny. He is good. It makes me laugh too. I had my bank account suspended as I tried to open a joint bank account. It was flagged as suspicious because we had the same date of birth, and lived in the 6 addresses in 5 years. If shut about fraud, that's from Richard Marsden. Um, I've still got a joint account with my ex girlfriend we broke up over 10 years ago. 11 years ago this summer, and I still have a joint account because I can't get rid of it because she lives in Australia. And HSBC wouldn't accept. She signed a piece of paper saying I don't need to be on this bank account anymore. I don't have a card. I don't use it, and so her name's still on my bank account, which I think irks my current girlfriend a little bit, but whatever. Scoopman says my golden signet ring still faces the opposite side of my watch, so technically typing with my left hand, I'm shooting you. I don't really understand what that means. Good morning. Oh, listen, Daily Blase. My wife is climbing the walls. Time now. Still waiting for a scan. It's still in hospital. Hopefully within the next few days. Thank you for asking. Oh, okay. Davin, sorry to hear about your wife being in hospital. That really fucking sucks. And also, yeah. Oh, the NHS at the moment's not great, is it? Because of the bloody Tories. So, sending all thoughts and prayers. That's all I can do at the moment. That sounds really weak, doesn't it? Also, I'm trying to topple the government. So, we'll try to do our little thing. We still don't know who bribed Johnson. Sorry, I meant get loan to Johnson, arranged by Sunak's mentor. Yeah, Michael, or Mikhail. We know for a fact that billionaires, millionaires, they do this trick where they borrow money instead of earning it because you don't pay tax on borrowing. So if you borrow, £500,000, £1 million, £12 million, whatever, from the bank, you don't have to pay tax on it. And then what you can do is get your business affairs, if you have a company, or if you get paid £1 million every time you do a talk in America, you basically pay that loan off the next year, and then that's written off against your account. So that isn't earning, is it? Because you haven't earned that million. You've paid off a debt using that million, so you don't have to pay tax on it. It's a wizard wheeze that a lot of billionaires and millionaires use, so they pay literally no income tax whatsoever. And availability, a thing that's available to them, but not to you, not to me. No. It's very expensive to be poor in this country. I don't understand something. Has the bank taken his money or just not letting him bank with them anymore? Apparently, they're frozen his account. That's what I've heard. I think they're just frozen it with the money inside. And the reason why we think this is something criminal, is he wasn't given a reason. So where Richard was saying about the suspected fraud or whatever, they were given a reason. If he's being investigated by, I guess, the Serious Crime Office or the Serious Fraud Office, whatever, they're not allowed to tell the person why the bank account has been frozen because it could prejudice a future case. So he's still got his offshore account. I'm sure he's got many. I smell a rat with Farage. I just smell a rat with him entirely. Yeah, indeed. Another weird thing happened over the weekend, which was that it came out that Catherine Berbel Singh, who's just like the most awful woman ever. She's like a character from Monkey Dust. She's just like Monkey Dust came up with like a demon headmistress who was just horrible and a bit and just not a nice human being in any way, shape, or form. She's having a pop at Jess Phillips, calling her racist after Jess Phillips objected to the fact that she posted a picture of Tina Turner after she died with her abusive ex-husband Ike Turner. A little bit tone deaf. Everyone on Twitter told her it was tone deaf, and one of the people who told her on Twitter that it was tone deaf was Jess Phillips. But Jess Phillips was obviously motivated by racism and also by the fact that the National Conservative Conference of which she spoke at, she was singled out because Jess Phillips didn't literally write dozens of tweets about pretty much everyone who spoke at that conference in the week that conference happened. She did. She definitely did. The reason why I'm talking about that as well is because I want to take you to the newspapers today. We're going to start. I'm going to ease you in gently. Okay, so let's have a look. I've got it set up now, you see, in advance. Woo! Technology. Super teacher hit squads for schools is the Mirror headline. Whoa! I tried to scroll this and I scrolled your messages instead. Sorry about that. The Daily Mirror, super teacher hit squads for schools. This is a Labour classroom promise. So this is something that Labour want to bring in. Take that as you will. I mean, I read an interesting take on Labour's position at the moment. It says like half the country want them to do the things they say they're going to do. Half the country hope they're lying, but they are 20 points ahead in the polls. So whatever they're doing, it's working. I know that annoys some people who are like Labour supporters since the 2015 intake of Labour supporters who somehow think they're more original than people like me who are, a Labour member in the late 90s. Yeah, somehow they have more of a say. They know what Labour's really about. But yeah, it was interesting. It was an interesting conversation. Just like, yeah, so until it stops working, we should probably just keep our head down for the moment. Anyway, the Times, doctors win pay pledge if they call off the strikes. So this is to do with the Health Secretary, Steve Barclay, sort of backing down over doctors striking because consultants are going on strike. Consultants! I mean, that's kind of crazy. It's bad enough when train drivers go on strike, but consultants in hospitals, that's how bad it is. They're going on strike because of this Tory terrible government, and it looks like the government's going to have to capitulate. But yeah, the voters' turn on Sunak over poor handling of inflation is on the eye. But what I really wanted to draw your attention to this morning is the Daily Telegraph. I mean, this is just a newspaper front page of just absolute scuzzery beyond anything you've ever seen. This is, not only is this paper, this rag, £3. You kidding me, are you? £3 for this piece of... Anyway, at the top you'll see there's a story about Meghan, of course. Why Clarkson ruling was flawed? Apparently it's flawed because it tramples... I don't know if you can read that, but it says it tramples on press freedom. Did you know that? I didn't know that. It tramples on press freedom, to the freedom to say to a young woman that she should be paraded naked through the streets while people throw excrement at her. Freedom! The freedom for a privately educated millionaire like Jeremy Clarkson to be able to say whatever he wants without any consequence whatsoever. That's what freedom's all about. Not the freedom to... live and work across the EU, not the freedom to have, human rights, something that I will come on to after this piece. But yeah, there's seriously worrying stuff ahead over the next 18 months of this Tory screaming monkey clown car on fire, going off a cliff. That is their party. That is their country at the moment. Anyway, so there's also a whinge about the cricket yesterday, saying underhand dismissal because the cricketer thought that it was a dead ball and it wasn't a dead ball, and he got taken out. I mean, by the law of cricket, because they're called laws for some reason. It's fair enough. He should have checked that it was a dead ball. He didn't check. He just thought, well, it seems like a dead ball to me, and it wasn't. So the Australians took advantage of that fact and playing by the rules. Playing by the laws of cricket. Well, But then, the Telegraph is going to have a whine about that. Then, just above my head here, it says, Sunak told to cut migration by 66% or risk voter exodus. Are you kidding me, mate? They've already gone. It'll make no difference. Just talk about rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. Oh, my word. And then there's little stories along the bottom here. Just Stop Oil gets a mention for some reason because they might disrupt Wimbledon. Again, showing why Just Stop Oil is so effective because it gets on the front page of the Daily Telegraph, even when it does nothing. And its name is Just Stop Oil. And I know that people could argue over whether the Just Stop Oil people are making things worse for us or better, but the fact is that the Greenland melt and the temperature off in the Atlantic Ocean is just off the records this year. I mean, it's just you talk about the hockey stick, don't you? It's blown records. We've had the hottest June on record in the UK, the hottest by a mile. I mean, things are going down. Things are going down right now, and to stop this thing from happening, we really need to just stop oil. So, yeah, I'm a little bit... I don't want them annoying normal members of the public trying to get to work. I get that. But disrupting, the Chelsea Flower Show or whatever it was the other week, I don't care. That's good if it gets into the news. Disrupting the snooker. They get their protest. They get the picture on the front of all the newspapers and disrupt the snooker for 5 minutes. I mean, to be honest with you, half the people watching the snooker were probably asleep at that point, but there you go. Victor, worrying times still with these neo-fascist Tories and these Brexiters, liars, totally smashed our country and smashed our NHS. Nothing works now, totally delusional. Yeah, indeed. Anyway, so the big one, the big news story on the front of the Telegraph. I mean, all of them. This is just a cacophony of cack on the front of the Telegraph, but the best one. Banks must respect free speech of customers. This is for Farage. This is a news article possibly paid for by someone who's a massive fan of Farage. Who might that be? Who could you imagine who might be a massive fan of Farage and everything he does? Considering this is the guy who, pretty much made Brexit happen. I mean, I know it was facilitated by the likes of Jeremy Corbyn and Boris Johnson and Rees-Mogg and Gove and all those lunatics, but it was Nigel Farage and his multi-millionaire backers that managed to get a policy that was only seen as important by like 1% of the population in 2010. Like 1% of the population thought leaving the EU is the most important thing ever. To ratchet that up to arguably 52% of the people who bothered voting in that election, in that referendum. I mean, that's quite remarkable. 1% of people thought it was important, and within 6 years, suddenly it was the most important thing in the world ever. We desperately needed to leave the EU, or lest England fall into the sea, or some such nonsense. Maggie Pie, 20 Swedish krona, thank you very much. Farage has confessed to Russian money only once. Well, that's interesting. But this story here, Maggie, is basically saying banks must respect free speech of customers. The Treasury berates the Treasury. The Treasury is getting involved now. The Treasury of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland defending Nigel Farage getting money possibly off the Russians, allegedly. The Russians who have gone into Ukraine and committed war crimes, the likes of which we have not seen on European soil since the breakup of Yugoslavia. Horrific war crimes. Ecocide. Or ecocide. Let me know in the chat how you say that. But the destruction of the dam, Kramatorsk, is it? The dam that the Russians seem to have destroyed. I mean, they're saying, it might have been damaged, but the Russians were in charge of that dam. Whether it was by accident or whether it was on purpose, they are responsible for that massive crime and the pollution and the horror show and the 100 people who have died as a result of that dam being blown up. And the people who are funding that are also funding the Conservative Party and also people like Nigel Farage, allegedly. Possibly. Yeah. But yeah, the Treasury here berating lenders that shut accounts after taking exception to clients' opinions. Honestly, these banks have the money of Russian dictators, African dictators, South American dictators. They don't care. They don't care. They're banks. I can't get my head around this for a minute. It's like, the banks are suddenly the bleeding heart liberal banking elite. I mean, come on. How thick do they think you are? I mean, obviously the people who read the Telegraph are pretty thick. But the people who read the Telegraph are sun readers who think they're clever. It's kind of embarrassing. Echo is sound. Eco is correct. Okay, Eco. Eco side. Wes G says, no one seems to care when the Tories allowed Russians to poison. Oh, God, shine on. I've just made the intro sequence come on again. Didn't mean to do that. Sorry about that. I have to watch out for that in future when I'm flicking between scenes. No one seemed to care when the Tories allowed Russians to poison people here in the UK, help them keep power. Surely Nigel Farage is small beer in this. Yeah. The Tory party didn't just allow that to happen. Didn't just allow Russian operatives to come to the UK and murder a British citizen with Novichok, a nerve agent that only they had. They also allowed Boris Johnson, who was then the Foreign Secretary, to go to a sex and drugs orgy party with all these fat old disgusting millionaires and billionaires in Italy that was being hosted by a KGB agent. Former KGB agent. Which the government also allowed to buy the Evening Standard and the Independent back in about, 2010? No, there's nothing to see here. Just a former KGB agent. getting involved. A guy who's now Alexander Lebedev, who has now been sanctioned by the governments of Canada and other governments around the world as well. Not by us. In fact, his son was given a seat in the House of Lords. He was given a house in the seat of Lords, don't you know? Where the bank supporters of free speech of the IRA, what about the free speech of jihadists? Jez Hunt, you make a good point. Admiral says they could mass leaflet every single Tory office, spread their orange stuff all over Parliament and Tory officers, gathering in parks and massive information boards. That would probably help. Freezing your bank account and not telling you is a bit chilling. Just because it happened to a politician you don't like shouldn't matter. It can happen to anyone. No Monique in London can only happen if you the police or the Serious Fraud Office have actual evidence that you have committed a crime enough to basically get your bank accounts frozen. I think that might have to go before a judge before it actually goes ahead. So they've taken this to someone, a magistrate. I don't know how it works, but basically said, "Here you go. Here's what he's done." Anyway, Canal has sent 20 Singaporean dollars. Thank you very much, Canal. Boris Farage et al. Mere instruments of Alexander Duggin's master plan which architected the process that led to Brexit already in 1997 through his book, The Foundations of Geopolitics. I did a video on this a few years ago, and I think it's set to private at the moment on this channel, but I think I'll make it public again. Lebedev's role is still unclear to me. Why so public? Why not stay in the shadows? Well, no, Alexander Lebedev does stay in the shadows, but Evgeny Lebedev, his son, a lot of Russian oligarchs do this to keep their sort of fingerprints off things. They put their children in charge, their Nepo babies. I still want to do a version of Muppet Babies. Remember Muppet Babies in the 80s, the cartoon? The theme tune to that, but change it to Nepo Babies. We make our dreams come true. And screw the rest of you. David says, there's a rejoining march in London to rejoin the EU, 23rd of September. Yes, I will be joining that, I think, if I'm around. Graham desperately needs a studio director. That sounded like the intro of ITV Good Morning with Susie from Croydon and Penis Morgan. Oh, thanks. If you are suspected of fraud, banks can suspend activity while they investigate. There is no entitlement to a bank account. Okay, yeah, indeed. So basically, it's not like his human rights are being taken away, which is something that I want to come onto right now. Yeah, but as far as having a studio director is concerned, I mean, these videos get automatically demonetized by YouTube as soon as I finish. I don't know why, and then it takes up to a week for them to be monetized again, fully monetized. They have restrictive advertising on it, so basically you only earn about £1 for every 1,000 views you get on these videos anyway, at the best of times. So it's even less than that. So a studio director is quite far away. We've taken about £13 today on Super Chat. So if anyone wants to help me fund a studio director or producer, so they can actually work on the production while I'm actually presenting, or Phil is presenting. I mean, I do the production for him, but yeah, the super chats are open. What can I say? Right, okay. So last thing before I go, it is 10 o'clock. Graham Nigel has blamed the EU for banking his banking blocking. Easy for you to say, but blocking his bank. Let's say, what a liar indeed. Ernie Burns says the Sun reader knows that they aren't clever, but they think they are right, and that's all that matters. They think clever people disagreeing are just being snooty and rubbing their noses in it. Indeed. I think that's got to be the advert for the Tories, hasn't it? Thick as thieves. We'll do a little meme that says the average IQ is 100. The average IQ of a Tory MP is 81. It's not true, I just made it up, but, you know, they lie all the time, so why can't I? So, the latest Tory wheeze that they're looking at after the failure of their whole, you know, refugee demonization process, which was exemplified beautifully by the audience in Question Time, which was majority Conservative last Thursday, in which they were asked, do you think that the Rwanda policy is working? And no one put their hand up. Like, literally, no one supported it. No one supported in the audience, in the studio audience, no one supported the Rwanda plan. Because it's an awful plan. It's a dreadful plan. It makes no sense whatsoever. It makes no economic sense. It makes no moral sense. It's just terrible. They're only going to take 100 refugees because they don't have people to process them. And for every refugee they take, it's going to cost £170,000. And they're going to send the refugee back to us, possibly from the Democratic Republic of Congo. So, yeah, whoa. So get rid of those East Africans coming from Eritrea, and we'll take a West Central African instead. Okay, I don't mind, where the refugees come from, as long as they come to our country and we can take care of them really nicely. Oh, no, we can't do that because we haven't processed their asylum claims. And apparently there's only a handful of people who can process asylum claims in the UK, and they're working flat out, and the government has just not funded it at all because they want to have those scary numbers of people coming over in boats. They want people coming over in boats. They didn't have to have that. Anyway, the whole end game on all this, if you were wondering, is because they want to take us out of the European Convention on Human Rights. They're thinking about having a referendum about this. This was reported in the newspaper over the weekend. They're thinking of, the Tories are discussing having a referendum on us leaving the European Convention on Human Rights. There's a lot to go into in this. There's a lot to unpick, right? But the important thing is that you need to have a conversation with your elderly relatives very soon, because this may well happen next year before the general election. It might. I'm not saying it will. It's still an outside chance, but it might happen. And they will convince a lot of older voters to vote for getting rid of our human rights. So make this very clear to your elderly relatives. This is it. The Tory party are moving us closer and closer to an insurance model of healthcare. They're trying to destroy the NHS, and we'll be left with this disgusting insurance model. When that happens, the European Convention on Human Rights is the only thing that will be stopping the majority of these private insurance companies that are insuring people for their private healthcare, old people, elderly people. The only thing that's stopping these insurance companies from saying, no, sorry, you're too old. You can't have this treatment for cancer or your hip replacement or whatever it is. Sorry. Where are you going to take it? Are you going to take it to the European Court of Human Rights? You can't, because we're pulled out of the ECHR because we were told to by the posh people in charge who don't like migrants. It's horrible, and it's happening. You've seen it in America. On Friday, they not only got rid of the student debt absolution that was going to come in, but also they made it so it's now legal in America to discriminate on people based on their sexuality. Do you know what the kicker is on that? The company, the mom and pop pie company or whatever it was that went to the Supreme Court. They weren't asked to make anything for a gay couple. There was no gay couple that was involved in that lawsuit. It was all hypothetical. So what if a gay couple came in and asked for a cake and I didn't want to make them a cake? Okay, has that happened? No, but what if it did? So now it's perfectly legal in America to discriminate against people based on their sexuality. And I guess anything, really. Maybe their age. Maybe their age. Maybe you could be ageist against people. Take away that layer of security that we once had. So, yeah. Unless you're not a human rights are an important thing. And if you want to see where our future lies, have a look across over in America, who are not part of the European Convention on Human Rights because they're not part of Europe. Not really big on human rights at the moment either. Not with this gang of clowns in the Supreme Court. Anyway, right, so I'm going to leave it at that for the morning. I'm going to leave you with good grace, and you can go and listen to James O'Brien if you like. I will be back tomorrow. Oh, I'll be in the chat tomorrow. Phil will be back tomorrow at 9:30 for another morning brew. I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you for all of our wonderful comments. Ernie saying the cruelty is the point. The fascistic message appeal to basic sadistic desires. It motivates people blindly. That is very true. It's very true. But the idea of older people being denied healthcare because they're old and that being legal, hopefully that might get through to a few older people who might otherwise think this is an important thing that they should definitely vote on in order to, I don't know, stop refugees from coming here. We need to get rid of the European Convention of Human Rights. Well, there's still going to be international maritime law. That's still going to be a thing that exists. And part of that law is, if there's someone in distress at sea, doesn't matter if it's Hitler or Mahatma Gandhi. If someone is in distress at sea, you have to go and help. Because it's maritime law. I don't know. Maybe we're going to pull out of the international maritime law as well. Who knows? Who knows? But yeah, like I say, Phil will be back tomorrow for another round of Morning Brew. And until then, thank you very much for the super chats. Thank you very much for the chat. Thanks to all the YouTube members and all our supporters. I'll be heading over to the Discord server now. So if you want to have a chat with me after this, we are going to have a James O'Brien listen along. So if you are a YouTube member or a patron, you can go and do that. But until next time, I'll say thank you very much for watching. Hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.